Hello, cats and kittens. Say Yoroshiku, and it's Manga Monday once again. I'm not going to sing that song again. But yes, we're back in the Crisis Corner doing our impressions or giving our review of One Piece chapter 1018, which is entitled Jinbei versus Who's Who. Or we could say Fishman Karate versus Rokushiki, which is what we basically come down to. And it's quite entertaining. This I love the the fighting in this chapter is excellent, and we hadn't had a majority fighting chapter outside of Luffy and whatever was going on the roof in quite some time. So this was actually a very entertaining chapter, and we start off with the chaos that's going on inside the dome regarding the gifters, the headliners and the gifters turning against the rest of Kaido's forces and joining the samurai army, basically on the order of Emperor Palpatine, of Otama, the Dark Empress, and her powers, her bewitching Konoichi powers, which ultimately, I'm really unpopular opinion. I'm not feeling Otama anymore. There's this disingenuous aspect to her. I mean, like when Daifugo comes to the aid of Nami, Usopp, and Otama, and she greets him with, "Oh, hi, Daifugo," like they've been pals for years. And he's compelled to accept her as master joyfully. While deep in his heart, no doubt, he down for Kaido. But due to Kibidango, she has no choice but to accept her as his master. And she's up here saying all this, "Oh, geez, thanks," and all this stuff to all these people. She's bound to her will. It's disingenuous to me. I'm not really feeling her no more. I don't hate her, but I just ain't feeling her no more. Because she should just say, "Fight, slaves, fight to the death," and then I'd be a little bit better with it, but whatever. So she has turned the tide of the battle, which was needed, desperately needed, because they were desperately outnumbered. So apparently, well, we get into the numbers in a second, but we also get the consummation of Nami and Zeus's partnership or sidekickship, which Zeus joyfully accepts being Nami's sidekick. That's fine, and he puts in work. He starts zapping people. Out of the way, losers, I'm Nami's sidekick. So I want to see that this is a true level up, that this really puts Nami as a combatant on a higher level. Although it's not needed for her within the context of the crew to be a true combatant. But again, as I say with all of the so-called cowardly trio, when push comes to shove, they have to hold their own against whoever they face. So if she runs up against, she doesn't have to beat a Yonko commander, she doesn't have to beat a second commander, a Yonko, but if she's confronted with an opposite number, equal on the other side, and I'm not even saying that, a page one OT is they're equal, but she has to rise to the level of OT if that's who she's confronted with during the coming battles. So she's taking a step towards that. I want to see her integrate Zeus in with the other existing abilities of the climate tech and see how formidable she can be. Because everybody has to carry their load. They have to shoulder their load. They have to carry their weight. We'll see. Time will tell with that. Now, as to the numbers, we get the CP guys basically break it down that it's 16,000 versus 9,000 at this point. The numbers keep shifting. And the fact that we're getting headliners fighting against or turning against Kaido's forces, that number could easily slip even more because the headliners and the gifters can take out those foot soldiers, those lower level guys easily, and shift the tide of the battle to the point that we're pretty much even. That can happen in a hurry. They even say, depending on the gifter's efforts, things could change. But they also put in the caveat that whatever happens, the CP guys are not there to care about either side. They are there to kill who's who, which is cool. The government has no issues with the overall thing is that who's who cannot leave there alive. They said it doesn't set a good precedent that you can escape from us and live to tell the tale. That's a real dog government right there. So I respect that, so to speak. And then we come into Rokushiki versus Fishman Karate. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And the subtext of the battle being who's who mouthing off about stuff that he shouldn't have. But we'll get to that in a minute. He's using Geppo and all kind of real Rokushiki techniques. He's throwing the whole book at him as far as I can tell. He's got a fang pistol, which Jinbei's base level haki is not resistant to. Matter of fact, as we see at the beginning of the battle, Jinbei's even wheezing a little bit, but we remember that he had to fight the foot soldiers and who's who until Order 66 was called in, and the foot soldiers would no longer issue a turn to a 1v1. So at this point, we get the impression that Jinbei's either has to get his second win or whatever. But he's exerting him. He has exerted himself up until this point, and who's who is pretty much fresh. So he comes at him with the Fang pistol, which I guess is related to the Shigan attack that Rob Lucci used with a finger pistol. And it's so powerful that Jinbei takes damage through his haki and then eventually has to dodge, which he does well. I mean, I didn't take Jinbei as being especially fast, but he dodges the stuff very well, which is the beginning of who's mistake, because he makes the comment that Jinbei dodges pretty good for a fisherman, which is apparently a racial dig. That, it's the beginning of his downfall. So he comes at him next with a fang slash, which Jinbei, his haki stands up to that. He pretty much just it's a blitz technique. He just gets down on all fours and blitzes him. Now, he's not throwing a fang slash, he's just blitzing him, period. Jinbei's haki stands up to that. What else? Matter of fact, Jinbei delivers a shoulder throw and hits him with the water technique, which is a water shot, which hurts. And now at this point, we get to see that who's who is huffing and puffing a little bit. So that's good to know. So it's kind of coming even now in terms of exertion. Now, who's who starts going on this thing about the sun god Nike? This is Nike or whatever, which is a source of irritation to Jinbei. And there is question as to whether this sun god is a reference to Luffy or who is it a reference to. I don't think it has anything to do with Luffy because there's too much stuff projected in him prophetically already. Joy Boy and so forth. I think this is a red herring, or not necessarily a red herring, but just a separate issue that we'll discover as we go along. But if I had to put my money on it, I would say it doesn't have anything to do with Luffy. It has to do with somebody else that we're not focused on at this time. Back to the battle. Jinbei, I guess, again, who's mouthing off about this, that, and the other. Yeah, Jinbei's basic statement is, "Why are you bringing this up?" Then he makes a mistake of bringing up Fisher Tiger, basically the Sun Pirates and how their history of slavery. He goes into him with the Shigan, the finger pistol, and it's like blitzing him with it. And it seems like that that just pisses Jinbei off to the utmost. Now my question is here: does Jinbei's anger, was he purposely holding back his higher tier armament haki? Because at some point, as he's going on about nonsense, Jinbei's haki, he hakis up basically his whole body because he's getting blitzed by these finger pistols, and whose finger just basically snaps against his haki. So is that to say that he caught his second win and pushed his haki level up to where it should have been in the beginning? Was he holding back or what? But clearly, his armament haki is of such a level that the Rokushiki techniques, especially the Shigan, at this point, I would say, well, as we'll see, even the Fang pistols are useless. He takes him. He grabs him with this shark grip, which basically breaking his wrist, and then subjects him to what's the killer move is the demon brick fist, which seems to be a form of real because he throws a punch which stops just short of who's face, and then the attack launches from there. So he's injecting his haki, I believe, into who's who and dealing damage, which would sound like what Luffy's been learning. Not the start part with the Conqueror's haki, but just the injection of haki into the opponent to cause damage internally. That looks like what Demon Breakfast does. And it looks like he KOs him from there. Now, whether he gets up or not is a separate issue, but he really puts it to him. And again, he takes a Fang pistol, he tanks a Fang pistol to the face. Just tanks it. I mean, he's hockeyed up. It looks like he's hockeyed up from head to toe, and he just serves up the demon breakfast, and that's it. Lays him out. So we get to see. I got the impression that there might be more to this battle, and if so, I want to see if Jinbei's got even more tricks in his bag than this. And if so, what is it? Because he's locking down that third Yonko commander level right there, or position right there. It looks like it. And if that's the case, I want to see what Sanji comes up to get that second Yonko commander. I appreciate getting to actually see Jinbei work. It's a privilege, actually. The dude put up, because who's been hyped up a bit. He's been hyped up a bit, and it seems like had Jinbei gone into this fight fresh, and he not had to fight against all these subordinates and who's who, the fight might not have lasted that long. Especially with who's who, running off reckless at the mouth about nonsense. So, good chapter. Good chapter, and it's good to see Jinbei in a fight. And we're starting to see the pecking order getting established. So, good stuff. That's it. Again, not feeling Otama that much, but that's just what it is. Look forward to the next chapter and see if this fight progresses. Until then, let me know what you think. What are your impressions of Fishman Karate versus Rokushiki? How you feeling about Otama? Comment, subscribe, do what you want. Otherwise, from the Crisis Corner, I'm out. Stay loose.